subject today is how your moods affect your relationships. When my husband's probably in a good mood, he thinks I'm probably very loyal, which I actually am. That's a big part of my nature. When he's in a bad mood, he probably thinks that I'm very stubborn. You know, in a bad mood, he probably thinks I'm really opinionated, and in a good mood, he might think I'm very expressive. So here we are, depending on his mood, is depending on how he might feel about me. And it's the same thing with myself, and it's the same thing with you, with your relationships. So you'll find that if you feel close to your partner, then your mood is going to be good. And if you don't feel so close, then your mood is not going to be so good. So we come to this thing about, do you communicate with your partner? And I'd like you to start writing this in the chat thing. Who argues with their partner when they're in a bad mood? Now, you may not be in a relationship right now, and you may be in a relationship right now, but whether you are or not, this is really going to help. This is going to help for future relationships, and it's going to help for your relationships now. If you're in a bad mood, okay, sometimes I'm in a bad mood, and sometimes I communicate, and I think afterwards, why did I communicate to my husband when I'm in a bad mood? It's nothing to do with him. I'm just in a mood. Jonathan says, a question about expecting too much from your mate, and I think that's a brilliant question, because the point is they are who they are. Your partner will never be everything that you want them to be. And unfortunately, we're surrounded by films and, mostly movies and television where there's this fantasy figures. And having a fantasy of what your partner is like, they're never going to be all those things to you. They're never going to be everything. And that's where a lot of the problems can stem from, is that you expect them to be perfect. And yet I find this quite a funny issue, because we're not perfect. And yet there's this expectation that they're superhuman. And your partner's never going to be superhuman. They will change. People do change, but only if they want to. If they want to shift and they're ready to, they'll shift themselves in their own time, in their own way. But if you expect too much, or you want them to fit into your what you think a relationship should be like, then you're going to be very disappointed, and they'll never reach up to it. They will never, ever, ever reach up to what you want them to be. It's just not possible. Alana says, what if you're in a bad mood and you're tired and can't talk about the serious issue even if your partner wants? Do you know what? You actually have to talk about it. Sorry, Alana, but otherwise it's going to kind of be locked up inside of them. They're going to get more and more upset or angry, even if it's for a few hours. And I don't think you should hold off if they want to express themselves. That's not fair. So you need to, just because you're in a bad mood or tired, just let them speak. Let them say what they want to say. Maybe you don't need to get into it, a big old conversation, but just let them speak. Let them say what they want to say. Even if you're tired, you've had a long day at work, make sure that they're clear, because they're going to be happier. You don't have to argue the point out. Just let them express themselves. You don't have to be right all the time. You can say sorry. And that's something that I always say, that, say sorry as much as you can. What are some signs that two people aren't compatible instead of just refreshingly different? That's a really good question, Michael. Well, you first have to, if you aren't compatible if your values are different. So if you have completely different values, then, if somebody wants an open relationship and somebody wants a closed relationship, that's incompatible. If you've got different values about how important things are for you, for example, family and relationships are number one to you, and then to the other person it's something completely different, then you might be incompatible. So you have to look at your values. You know, are your values the same? And that's the foundation. And we're not talking about beliefs, it's more how you operate in the world. And so one, you have to look at, are your values the same or are your values different, which will be a fundamental key to whether you're compatible or not. But people in general are compatible because we're by nature, we like relationships, we're drawn to each other. And there's something that I say today in my article in the Huffington Post, which is, are you incompatible or are you refreshingly different? And I say that it kind of doesn't matter what you do for a living or what your hobbies are, so long as you feel close to each other. So if you feel close, it really doesn't matter, you know, because you feel close to the person. Now, Jonathan's asked a question here. So he loves his time alone, just to think and be quiet. However, it impacts my partner. What to do? Jonathan, if you're someone who likes your time alone, then you've got to have your time alone. Because if your partner lets you have time alone, then it's probably time that you replenish and you sort of give to yourself. So anyone else who feels that that's really important to them, you know, with guys, we often say they go into their cave, but I'm also somebody who likes to have, I'm going to take these earphones off because I don't need them, but I'm also someone who likes to have time alone to think and reflect. And when I come out, I'm a much nicer person because I've balanced myself. And I don't know if you relate to that, Jonathan, that that you like to have. It's very important that your partner knows that that's your nature, that you like to have alone time, and then you like to be with them. And it sort of keeps you balanced to do that. So here we have a question from Jason who says, have you ever found a couple that took time off and dated others and came back together just fine? Absolutely, Jason, I have. 100% I have. So if you're in that situation, you know, I really have, and I've coached quite a few people who have taken time off from their relationships and then sort of they've done some self-development work. These people obviously did quite a bit with me, and then they went back, and actually a number of people have got married from after sort of doing the work and changing how they communicate. Listen, thanks very much, guys, for coming this week, and really look forward to seeing you next week, and hope you have a fantastic week